Cristiano Ronaldo had just finished another grueling training session. The stadium echoed with the chants of fans eagerly waiting outside for a glimpse of their idol. It was a scene Ronaldo had grown accustomed to. The flashing cameras, the autograph seekers, and the endless stream of people hoping for a moment with the football legend. For the world, he was an untouchable star, a larger-than-life figure whose sole purpose seemed to revolve around the game. But for Ronaldo, there was always more. That day, as he left the stadium, flanked by security and his team, he noticed a woman standing at the edge of the crowd. She wasn't holding a jersey or a marker for an autograph. Instead, she clutched a small child in her arms, her face pale and tear-streaked. Unlike the others who were shouting his name, she stood quietly, her lips trembling as though unsure whether to speak. Ronaldo's pace slowed. There was something about her that pulled at him, something different. He nudged his security aside, ignoring their cautious glances, and walked toward her. The crowd fell silent, their excitement giving way to curiosity as they watched the interaction unfold. The woman's voice was barely audible over the murmur of the onlookers. "Please, sir," she said, her voice breaking. "I need your help." Ronaldo crouched slightly to meet her gaze, his expression softening as he took in the scene before him. The boy in her arms couldn't have been older than 6. His skin was pale, and his frail frame seemed too small for his age. His eyes, though tired, carried a spark of innocence that made Ronaldo's chest tighten. "What's wrong?" Ronaldo asked gently, his tone so calm that it seemed to steady the woman's shaking hands. She hesitated, glancing at the crowd before speaking, as if the weight of her words might shatter her. "My son, he's very sick," she began, her voice trembling. "He has a rare condition. The doctors say he needs surgery, immediately. But..." Her words caught in her throat, and tears welled in her eyes. "I've tried everything. I've sold everything. I don't have the money to save him." Ronaldo listened intently, his eyes flicking between the boy and his mother. The desperation in her voice was unmistakable. She wasn't here for fame or attention. She was here because she had nowhere else to go. The crowd, sensing the gravity of the moment, remained unusually quiet. People watched as Ronaldo leaned closer to the boy, his hand gently resting on the child's tiny shoulder. "What's your name?" he asked softly, his voice kind. The boy's lips moved, but the words were barely a whisper. The mother answered for him, her voice trembling with emotion. "He's too weak to talk much these days," she said. "But his name is..." She paused, then added, "He's all I have." Ronaldo's throat tightened. He knew what it felt like to fight for the people you love. He had grown up in a modest home where sacrifices were made daily to give him a chance at success. And now, standing in front of this mother and her son, he saw himself, not as the global icon the world worshipped, but as a human being who had the power to make a difference. "How soon does he need the surgery?" Ronaldo asked, his tone firm yet gentle. "The doctor said, within weeks. If we wait too long..." Her voice broke, and she clutched the boy tighter, as though holding him closer could somehow shield him from the harsh reality of their situation. Ronaldo nodded, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then, without hesitation, he stood up and turned to one of his team members. "Get the details from her," he said simply, "and make sure the arrangements are made. Everything she needs, hospital, surgery, travel, take care of it." The woman gasped, her eyes widening as she looked up at him. "What?" she whispered, as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. Ronaldo turned back to her, his gaze steady and sincere. "I'll take care of it," he said. "Your son will get the surgery. Don't worry anymore." The weight of his words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The woman's knees buckled, and she almost fell, clutching her son as tears streamed down her face. "I don't know how to thank you," she sobbed. "You've saved his life. You've saved us." Ronaldo placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm and steady. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "Just take care of him, that's all that matters." The crowd erupted into whispers, their awe palpable. This wasn't the Ronaldo they saw on magazine covers or in advertisements. This was a man whose quiet act of kindness had just changed a life. As Ronaldo walked away, the boy's fragile smile was the last thing he saw. It was a moment that wouldn't make headlines, but it was one he would carry with him forever. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Ronaldo sat in the back seat of his car, his mind racing. The encounter with the mother and her frail son had left an indelible mark on him. He could still see the desperation in her eyes, the silent plea for help that had cut through the noise of the crowd. Her trembling hands and the fragile boy's pale face stayed with him like a haunting memory. But for Ronaldo, it wasn't a matter of sympathy. It was a call to action. This wasn't about cameras or publicity. It wasn't about adding to his image as a global icon. This was about doing the right thing, about stepping up when no one else could. He pulled out his phone and immediately dialed his manager, his voice steady but urgent. "I need your help," he began, outlining every detail of what he had just witnessed. His team, accustomed to Ronaldo's humility and generosity, didn't hesitate. The process began that very night. Calls were made to some of the best pediatric specialists in Europe and the Middle East, hospitals known for handling rare and critical cases. Ronaldo's only instruction was clear: find the best care for the boy, spare no expense. But helping wasn't as straightforward as he had hoped. The boy's condition was severe and the window for surgery was narrowing. Coordinating with doctors across borders was no small feat, especially with the complex logistics of arranging visas, hospital stays, and specialized medical equipment. Ronaldo sat with his team for hours, poring over every detail, ensuring nothing was overlooked. One of his assistants looked at him cautiously. "This is going to be complicated, Ronaldo," she said. "It'll take time to get everything in place." Ronaldo leaned back in his chair, his jaw tightening. "Then we move faster," he said firmly. "The boy doesn't have time. Whatever it takes, make it happen." The gravity of the situation pushed him to take on a more hands-on role than usual. Ronaldo didn't simply delegate tasks. He followed up personally. He called the mother late that night to reassure her. "I've spoken to the doctors," he told her, his voice calm and steady. "They're preparing everything. Your son will get the care he needs." The mother, overwhelmed with gratitude, could barely form words. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You've given us hope when we had none." Ronaldo didn't need thanks. Hearing the relief in her voice was all the validation he needed. "You don't need to thank me," he said gently. "Focus on your son. That's all that matters." As days turned into weeks, the logistical hurdles grew. Arrangements had to be made for the child and his mother to travel to the hospital, requiring meticulous planning to ensure their journey was as smooth and stress-free as possible. Ronaldo's team coordinated every detail, from flights to accommodations, but Ronaldo himself made the effort to check on their progress daily. When the hospital confirmed the surgery date, Ronaldo sent a special care package to the boy. It included a signed jersey, a handwritten note wishing him strength, and a small toy football. The note read, "You're stronger than you think. I believe in you." The boy's reaction, as described by his mother, brought tears to Ronaldo's eyes. She sent him a photo of her son clutching the jersey, a faint smile on his face. "He says it's his lucky charm now," she told Ronaldo. "He wants to wear it during the surgery." But just as everything seemed to fall into place, a call from the hospital shook Ronaldo's confidence. The lead surgeon explained that the boy's condition had deteriorated faster than expected. The surgery was now riskier, with a lower chance of success. "We'll do everything we can," the surgeon assured him, "but you should prepare the family for the possibility that—" The words hung in the air, unfinished but heavy with meaning. Ronaldo sat in silence for a moment, his mind replaying the image of the boy's fragile smile and the mother's trembling hands. Failure wasn't an option, not for the boy, not for the family. That evening, Ronaldo called the mother again. He explained the risks as gently as he could, his voice steady despite the weight of the conversation. "The doctors will do their best," he told her. "And so will I. We won't give up." The mother broke down on the other end of the line, her sobs muffled but heart-wrenching. "You've already done so much," she said through her tears. "Even if—" She couldn't finish the sentence, and Ronaldo quickly interrupted. "No," he said firmly. "We don't think that way. Your son is a fighter, and so are you. Focus on that." Behind the scenes, Ronaldo worked tirelessly, ensuring every possible measure was taken to support the boy and his family. He didn't want the family to feel alone, so he arranged for a support network, a translator, a liaison at the hospital, and even a psychologist to help the mother cope with the stress. Ronaldo's insistence on keeping everything private was another testament to his character. When one of his team members suggested releasing a statement to highlight the good deed, Ronaldo refused. "This isn't about me," he said firmly. "It's about them." As the surgery date approached, tension mounted. Ronaldo spent sleepless nights thinking about the boy, imagining the operating room and the doctors working to save his life. He couldn't shake the image of the mother's eyes, filled with hope and fear in equal measure. On the eve of the surgery, Ronaldo sent another message to the family. It was simple but powerful. "You're not alone. I'm with you, always." That night, as he sat by his window, staring at the city lights, Ronaldo felt a rare sense of vulnerability. For all his fame and fortune, there were still moments when he felt powerless. But he reminded himself that it wasn't about guarantees. It was about trying, about showing up when it mattered most. The morning of the surgery arrived, and Ronaldo's heart felt heavier than usual. He knew the stakes, understood the risks, but he also knew that every effort he had made was for something greater than himself. As he waited for news from the hospital, he clung to the hope that his belief in kindness and humanity would prevail. The day of the surgery dawned with a tension that seemed to hang in the air like a dense fog. The hospital lobby was quiet, save for the occasional shuffle of nurses' shoes and the low murmur of voices from the reception desk. Ronaldo walked in with the mother and her frail son, his arm lightly resting on her shoulder in a gesture of silent support. The little boy, clutching the signed jersey Ronaldo had gifted him days earlier, looked up at his mother, his weak smile enough to bring tears to her eyes. The mother's face was etched with exhaustion, her eyes swollen from nights spent crying and worrying. Yet, as she looked at Ronaldo, her expression softened, a flicker of hope breaking through the layers of fear. "I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "You would have found a way," Ronaldo replied, his voice steady but kind. "Mothers always do. I just helped where I could." A nurse approached, her tone professional yet gentle, and explained that it was time to prepare the boy for surgery. The mother hesitated, her hands gripping the handles of the wheelchair as though letting go would shatter her. Ronaldo crouched beside her, his eyes meeting hers. "He's in the best hands," he said softly. "You've done everything you could. Now let them do the rest." She nodded, her tears spilling freely now, and leaned down to kiss her son's forehead. The boy looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes, and then turned to Ronaldo. With a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Thank you." Ronaldo's throat tightened, but he managed to smile. "You're brave," he said. "Much braver than I ever could be. We'll see you soon, champ." As the nurses wheeled the boy away, the mother broke down, her sobs echoing in the quiet corridor. Ronaldo guided her to a nearby bench, sitting beside her as she buried her face in her hands. The weight of the moment was overwhelming, but Ronaldo stayed calm, his presence a steady anchor for the mother's storm of emotions. Minutes turned into hours. Every second felt like an eternity. The mother fidgeted with her scarf, her hands trembling as she tried to compose herself. Ronaldo remained by her side, occasionally offering her water or softly reassuring words. Despite the chaos of emotions swirling around them, he exuded a quiet strength, blending into the background as though his fame didn't exist. At one point, the mother broke the silence, her voice shaky. What if it's too late? What if we're too late?" Her question hung in the air, heavy and raw. Ronaldo turned to her, his gaze firm, but compassionate. "It's not too late," he said. "He's a fighter, and so are you." The mother looked at him, her eyes searching his for answers, for hope. And in that moment, Ronaldo wasn't just a football star or a philanthropist. He was a human being who understood the weight of her fear, the depth of her love, and the fragility of hope. As the hours dragged on, the tension in the room grew unbearable. Every time a nurse walked by, the mother's head snapped up, her breath catching as she searched their face for news. Ronaldo's phone buzzed intermittently with calls and messages, but he ignored them, his attention fully on the moment at hand. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the surgeon appeared at the end of the corridor. The mother shot to her feet, her hands clutching at her chest as she stared at the doctor's face, searching for any clue in his expression. Ronaldo stood beside her, his hand lightly resting on her shoulder to steady her. The surgeon smiled, the kind of smile that spoke louder than words. "The surgery was a success," he said. "Your son is stable and responding well. He'll need time to recover, but he's going to be okay." The mother collapsed into a mixture of sobs and laughter, her hands covering her face as relief washed over her. Ronaldo caught her before she could fall, guiding her back to the bench as she struggled to find words. "Thank you," she whispered over and over again, to the surgeon, to Ronaldo, to anyone who would listen. "Thank you. Thank you." Ronaldo's chest felt lighter than it had all day. He exhaled a long, steady breath, the tension that had gripped him finally releasing. He turned to the surgeon, shaking his hand firmly. "Thank you," he said sincerely, "for everything." A few hours later, the mother was allowed to see her son. Ronaldo accompanied her to the room, standing just outside the door to give her a moment alone. Through the small window, he could see her kneeling beside the boy's bed, her hands gently brushing his hair as she whispered to him. The boy's eyes fluttered open, and even from a distance, Ronaldo could see the faint smile on his lips. When the mother emerged from the room, she was a different person. Her face, though still streaked with tears, was filled with a light that hadn't been there before. She walked straight to Ronaldo and hugged him tightly, her voice trembling with emotion. "You didn't just save my son," she said. "You saved our family. You gave us back our hope." Ronaldo returned the hug, his own emotions threatening to surface. "It wasn't just me," he said softly. "It was everyone, the doctors, the nurses, and most of all, you. You never gave up on him." As they walked out of the hospital together, the mother holding her son's small jersey like a treasure, Ronaldo felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. This moment wasn't about trophies, accolades, or the roar of a crowd. It was about humanity, about doing something that mattered. Later that night, as Ronaldo sat by his window reflecting on the day, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. The boy's smile, the mother's embrace, the knowledge that he had been a part of something truly meaningful. It all reminded him why he did what he did. Fame was fleeting, but moments like these were eternal. The weeks following the surgery felt like the dawn after a long, dark night. The boy's recovery was slow but steady, each passing day bringing new signs of progress. The pale color of his skin was replaced with a healthy glow, his fragile frame grew stronger, and the faint smile that Ronaldo had seen in the hospital began to light up his face more often. The mother, who had spent countless nights by her son's bedside, began to smile too, though hers was always accompanied by tears of gratitude. For her, this wasn't just a recovery, it was a miracle. Ronaldo stayed involved in the boy's journey, not because he wanted recognition, but because he genuinely cared. Despite his packed schedule, he found time to call the mother every week, asking about the boy's health, his mood, and his recovery milestones. On the boy's birthday, Ronaldo sent a special package, a new pair of football shoes, a football signed by him, and a video message wishing him a happy birthday. In the video, Ronaldo smiled warmly and said, "Happy birthday, champ. You've shown the world what it means to be a fighter. I hope you enjoy your day and know that I'm always rooting for you." The mother shared the video with her son, who watched it repeatedly, his laughter echoing through their small home. The boy had started dreaming again, and every dream now carried the hope of one day meeting Ronaldo on the football field, not as a patient, but as a young player inspired by the man who had saved his life. Despite Ronaldo's efforts to keep the story private, it was impossible to contain. A nurse at the hospital, moved by what she had witnessed, anonymously shared the story with a local journalist. The article, titled "The Day Cristiano Ronaldo Quietly Saved a Child's Life," quickly gained traction. It spread like wildfire across social media, accompanied by photos of the boy wearing the signed jersey Ronaldo had given him. The world couldn't stop talking about the silent heroism of a man who had chosen kindness over applause. Headlines from around the globe praised Ronaldo's act of compassion. Cristiano Ronaldo proves true greatness is in the heart. A football star's humility changes a family's fate. When Ronaldo saved a life, a lesson in humanity. Ronaldo's fans flooded social media with messages of admiration. Many shared their own stories of how Ronaldo had inspired them to give back to their communities. "If Ronaldo can do this, what's stopping me from helping someone in need?" one fan tweeted, garnering thousands of likes. But amidst all the attention, Ronaldo remained silent. When asked about the story during an interview, he simply smiled and said, "I don't do things for headlines. I do them because it's the right thing to do." The impact of Ronaldo's act extended far beyond the boy and his family. Charities reported an increase in donations inspired by the story. Football academies held events to raise money for children with critical illnesses. Fans around the world organized community drives, collecting funds for medical aid. What started as one act of kind